When it comes to defending this nation and taking care of our troops, I've been in and out of Iraq and Afghanistan 27 times. I've been up in FOBs, I've been up in the Konar Valley, my helicopters. I may take a backseat to no one. My son spent a year in Iraq volunteering, the Attorney General of Delaware, won the Grand Star. I take a backseat to no one in my family. But that doesn't mean that I don't believe it's just as important to feed our people as it is to fund our military. I do. Do I believe this is important to invest in our infrastructure, the arteries that make possible our economy to flow? Yeah, I do. Do I believe it's time for our combat troops not only to come home from Iraq, which they have, but come home from Afghanistan now? Yes, I do. And I fought for it. So have you. And you look how far we've come with your help. We've ended the war in Iraq. We are ending the war in Afghanistan. And with your help, we were able to negotiate. I got stuck with, it's always like, there used to be a commercial back when I was your age that was about Life cereal. There was 3 kids sitting at the kitchen table and 2 older boys, and they looked at the cereal and said, "What's that?" I said, "Mom and Daddy eat it." "I don't know. What's it taste like?" "I don't know." And they said, "Well, Mikey will eat it." Okay? And they point to Mikey. Well, I'm always Mikey when it comes to negotiating with the House and Senate. They say. But I want to tell you, we got a long way to go to make the tax code fair. But for the first time in 20 years, Republicans voted to raise taxes on the top 1%. The first time, the top 2%. And I continue to believe that closing loopholes like earned income tax credit, the carried interest, and all the other loopholes, over $600 billion of them, that the wealthy take advantage of, they don't need and does not add to productivity. That should continue to be our target, not to go after the wealthy, but to make sure everybody's in the deal, everybody pays their fair share. And what all of this has made me think of is a basic question that I think we need to answer, and you're in the process of answering it as well. What are our priorities? What is most important to us? What do we care about most? What is it that will make America more fair, just, and prosperous, not just for some? If everything is equally important to you, then nothing is important to you. If everything is equally important to you, then nothing is important to you. So we have to straightforwardly state, without apology, what we are for and why. And I believe that we are at an inflection point. We've probably reached this point in our history 3 or 4 times. Remember your physics class when you're in school? I remember my physics yesterday. An inflection point is you're riding down the highway at 60 miles an hour, and you sharply turn the wheel 10 to 12 degrees in one direction. You can never get back on the path you were on. That's an inflection point where things change in a significant way. We are at an inflection point in national and world history. Things are going to change unrelated to Barack Obama and Joe Biden or even you. They're going to change because the world has changed. To quote Yeats, all's changed utterly. A terrible beauty has been born. What are we going to do? Our hands are on the wheel, and this is one of those moments that few times in our history people get a chance to actually bend history a little bit. Just a little bit. And there are fundamental changes taking place in the world and at home. And ladies and gentlemen, we have to be clear. We have to be crystal clear on what are the fundamental organizing principles we think this democracy rests upon, and fight like hell to make sure they are sustained and maintained. Because it's on those organizing principles that we're able to potentially build a much better, fairer nation. And let me tell you what I think those organizing principles are. First and foremost, I believe in a nation that stands for equal rights for all Americans. That includes the right to choose. It includes the right to marry whoever you love. It includes the right of everybody in the LGBT community to be treated equally in every respect. That's why we have to pass ENDA. We have to pass it now. I know there's differences on the detail of it, but no one should ever have a right to dismiss somebody because of their sexual orientation. It just does not exist. It also includes the basic proposition that my daughter and my 4 granddaughters are guaranteed every single opportunity my sons and grandsons have because they are capable of whatever my sons and grandsons can do. They need everything. Without exception, I am determined. Ensuring that one of the primary measures of how we concluded and where we judged as a people is how we deal with the abuse of power, whether it's psychological, economic, or physical power. The abuse of power, as my father would say, is the worst sin that can be committed. And the cardinal sin among all of those is for a man to raise his hand to a woman for whatever reason. No man has a right to raise a hand to a woman under any circumstances other than self-defense. Period. Some of you may not agree with that, but no circumstance. No. And that's why we moved this debate from writing that law to focusing on sexual assault on campuses. It is outrageous. To all you men in the audience, and every man listening to me here, every single man listening to me, you have a right, an obligation to stop deporting our families! Stop deporting our families! Let's take these one issue at a time, okay?
Stop recording our videos.
I respect your view and I share your view, but let me take these issues one. We should clap for those young people because if you were a member of the family, we should. Can you imagine the pain, the anxiety of coming home every day wondering whether or not your mother or father will still be there? Can you imagine? Can you imagine what it must feel like? Ladies and gentlemen, there's so much unfinished business. But I believe in a nation that understands that the most precious right Americans possess is the unfettered access to the ballot box. Now listen to me, because I mean this sincerely. It is not as sexy. It is not as immediately heart-wrenching, but it is the basis upon which we'll be able to deal with the concern of those young people and everything else I mentioned. It's the basis upon which every single other right rests. I started my career as a young man in the civil rights movement. No big deal, just a kid desegregating movie theaters and facilities in my state of Delaware, which has the 8th largest black population in America. The fact of the matter is that without the right to vote, and you know, we fought for the Voting Rights Act. I was a kid. What happened at Pettus Bridge, what happened during the entire movement, and the passage of the legislation, I thought, and then I became chairman of the Judiciary Committee, and I fought for the constant re-extension of the Voting Rights Act. The last time it passed 99-0, and I thought, finally the principle's established. I never thought I'd be standing here in the year 2014 when over, I believe it's 65 pieces of legislation that introduced in state legislative bodies to curtail, to diminish, to shorten the time within which to demand more proof that you're able to vote. I thought we were beyond that point. This is a fight that I know is not on the top of everyone's agenda, but we can not lose. These guys mean it. They haven't gone away. And folks, the fact of the matter is that I believe we are a nation that is, I'll put it another way, there is climate change. It's real. And the reason why passion is warranted is because it is the single greatest challenge to humanity that exists today. It is not only a moral obligation, but literally, in a literal sense, if we do not gain control of it, it's going to mortgage not just the next generation, but humanity. And I believe that we're a nation of immigrants. The constant flow of immigration from our founding of our country has been the primary source of our ability to constantly remake ourselves as a nation. I met with Lee Kuan Yew on my way from Mumbai to Japan, to Tokyo, and then off to Beijing. And he's 94 years old, referred to as the Henry Kissinger of the Orient. And I asked him, he's written extensively and spoken extensively on the future of India, China, the United States, and Russia. And I said to him midway through the conversation, because I've known Xi more than most know him, because I've spent so much time with him, I said, what's China doing right now? And he's 94 in frail health, but in sharp mind. And he speaks perfect English. He looked at me, he said, Mr. Vice President, China is in the United States right now looking for the buried black box. I looked at him quizzically like you all are looking at me. And I said, Mr. President, what do you mean? He said, that box that contains the secret that allows America to be the only country in the world that is constantly able to remake itself. I said, Mr. President, I'm old enough now to presume to give you an answer. What's that black box? Number one, naturalized or native born, stamped into the DNA of every American citizen, is a healthy skepticism for orthodoxy. We're one. Think about it. I'm not joking. Think about that proposition, including our great allies. No child in school ever gets in trouble for challenging orthodoxy. It's the reason why we've been able to remake things. Secondly, I said, Mr. President, in that black box they'll find a constant stream of immigration. Not just trickles, major flows of immigration. Because think about it, folks. Even those of you who are not crazy about the flow of immigration, think about it. What does it take to one day sit in your yard or your table and look at one another and say, you know, I've got a great idea. Let's leave everything we know and are comfortable with and move to a country that probably doesn't